My people, we still gon' wait up. I found peace, yes, my may. All my people gon' wait. So just avoid the hate. Orthodox boss a lot. Open up the gates. It's still goalless if you ballin'. So give up the game. He's gonna bring us all the cars to Jerusalem. Build the base, unite the nation, make it all shalom. All the faces in the place are gonna see the gleam. So just praise his name. All the Yidden gonna be there. Zaman inshallah. Malachim and Shemayim all done heard our dawah. Giloy on Reboy, not this hot saga. The secular is gonna be absurd like Dada. This will be a good time to wake up Abba, the divinely designed extravaganza. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Labiyam on the Mahalo, why ain't we there? Tamid and the Azara, why ain't we there? David HaMelech with the Shminis, then I take close. Mental, see it's essential. Understand the reason he sent you. This is a vessel, this is all introspective. Surprising, rising on a positive vector. Why in your sector? Mahydran inventor. If you sound moronic, it's a sign of defectors. A Haligasa on your style like Hannibal Lecter. Got him bouncing like Kedusha and making your neck hurt. I run up like a worm in your network. Stuck up in your memory. Think you can flex words? I admire fire, let me give you a test first. I give you the Perrick, you give me the 10th verse. Don't ask Kashas, go to base and just learn. Stick a blank disc inside your face and press burn. Taking the Kedusha, bringing it westward. Less than a sixth of this will make your head turn. Check the sign of the vital, Lachan the style, yo. Inside of the Bible, Nichtav B'tzad on the side of my bio. I'm leaving MCs comatose like Shibo. What? I'm on your last shown like pasta. Clinging to the Eitz Chaim just like Rastas. Kedi Shasa La'as for the Chashka Nachasa. Keeping it kosher, baby, with Haredish style. Taking the tradition and I'm making it now. Changing my position as I'm breaking it down. Exchange of television for a saintlier ground. My people want salvation now. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Labiyam on the Mahalo, why ain't we there? Tamid and the Azara, why ain't we there? David HaMelech with the Shminis, man, I take goes hidden living in my grill, all in my video. Understand my words and they still don't hear me though. Bounce to the bass for you bounce to the bass. Come reckless to stetlich, whip shetlich for days. Strictly 613, what I'm selling be. Love the Torah like Dr. Brown, love celery. What's Neshama and Rastafari liberty? All up in your yichus like a dog with a pedigree. Watch as I work this style with a purpose. Halachic observance, Hasidish and Litvish don't witness the sickest. Whole Edel HaMizrach won't see that this kid's hot. Rizcha the Sifra, Idkara Yitzra, La'ela Ashikla, Mechazei Ashikra, Echta Baptiska, L'Vekavei Achibra. Waiting for Mashiach, Avo Pishias Bamei. All my holy people in the system gon' wait up. Ain't you sick of living in division? Yo, change up. Speaking of my scorner and you all up in the ratio. Act like it's tax law, bro, it's a safer. Life is defined by the words on the paper. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Labiyam on the Mahalo, why ain't we there? Tamid and the Azara, why ain't we there? David HaMelech with the Shminis, man, I take close. I found Pisha, yes, my may. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my may. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my may. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my may. All my people gon' wait. So just avoid the hate. Orthodox boss a lot. Open up the gates. It's still goalless if you ballin'. So give up the game. He's gonna bring us all the cars to Jerusalem. Build the base, unite the nation, make it all shalom. All the faces in the place are gonna see the gleam. So just praise his name. All the Yidden gonna be there. Zaman inshallah. Malachim and Shemayim all done heard our dawah. Giloy on Reboy, not this hot saga. The secular is gonna be absurd like Dada. This will be a good time to wake up Abba, the divinely designed extravaganza. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Labiyam on the Mahalo, why ain't we there? Tamid and the Azara, why ain't we there? David HaMelech with the Shminis, man, I take close. Grabbing a Hasidic mental, see it's essential. Understand the reason he sent you. This is a vessel, this is all introspective. Surprising, rising on a positive vector. Why in your sector? Mahydran inventor. If you sound moronic, it's a sign of defectors. A Heligasa on your style like Hannibal Lecter. Got him bouncing like Kedusha, making your neck hurt. I run up like a worm in your network, stuck up in your memory. Think you can flex words? I admire fire, let me give you a test first. I give you the parrot, you give me the test first. Don't ask Kashas, go to base and just learn. Stick a blank disc inside your face and press burn. Taking the Kedusha, bringing it westward. Less than a sixth of this will make your head turn. Check the sign of the vital, Lacan the style, yo. Inside of the Bible, Nichtab, it's out on the side of my bio. I'm leaving MCs comatose like Shivo. What? I'm on your last shown like pasta, clinging to the eighth chaim just like Rastas. Kadishasa la asva the chashka nachasa. Keep it kosher, baby, with Haredish style. Taking the tradition and I'm making it now. Changing my position as I'm breaking it down. Exchange a television for a saintly ground. My people want salvation now. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Labiyam on the Malo, why ain't we there? Tommy the niggas over, why ain't we there? David Melech with the Shminish, man, I tech goes hit it. Living in my grill, all in my video. Understand my words and they still don't hear me though. Bounce to the bass for you, bounce to the bass. Come reckless to stetlich, whip shetlich for days. Strictly 613, what I'm selling me. Love the Torah like Dr. Brown, love celery. What's Neshama and Rastafari liberty? All up in your yichus like a dog with a pedigree. Watch as I work this style with a purpose. Halakhic observance, Hasidish and Litvish don't witness the sickest. Whole Edel Hamis, I won't see that this kid's hot. Piska the Sifra, it cover Yitzra, La Ela Ashikla, Nachaze Ashifra, Echtaba Piska, the Kabe Achibra. Waiting for Mashiach, I will be shared by me. All my holy people in the system gon' wait up. Ain't you sick of living in division? Yo, change up. Speaking of my scorner and you all up in the ratio. Act like it's tax law, bro, it's a safer. Life is defined by the words on the paper. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Labiyam on the Malo, why ain't we there? Tommy the niggas over, why ain't we there? David Melech with the Shminish, man, I tech goes hit it. I found Pisha, yes, my man. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my man. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my man. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my man. All my people gon' wait. So just avoid the hate. Orthodox boss a lot, open up the gates. It's still goalless if you ballin', so give up the game. He's gonna bring us all the cars to Jerusalem. Build the base, unite the nation, make it all shalom. All the faces in the place are gonna see the gleam. So just praise his name. All the Yidden gonna be there, Zaman inshallah. Malachim and Shemayim, all that heard our dawa. Giloy on Reboy, not this hot saga. The secular is gonna be absurd like Dada. This will be a good time to wake up Abba, the divinely designed extravaganza. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Labiyam on the Malo, why ain't we there? Tommy the niggas over, why ain't we there? David Melech with the Shminish, man, I tech goes hit it. Grabbing a Hasidic mental, see it's essential. Understand the reason he sent you. This is a vessel, this is all introspective. Surprising, rising on a positive vector. Why in your sector? Mahydran inventor. If you sound moronic, it's a sign of defectors. A Heligasa on your style like Hannibal Lecter. Got him bouncing like Kedusha, making your neck hurt. I run up like a worm in your network, stuck up in your memory. Think you can flex words? I admire fire, let me give you a test first. I give you the parrot, you give me the test first. Don't ask Kashas, go to base and just learn. Stick a blank disc inside your face and press burn. Taking the Kedusha, bringing it westward. Less than a sixth of this will make your head turn. Check the sign of the vital, Lacan the style, yo. Inside of the Bible, Nichtab, it's out on the side of my bio. I'm leaving MCs comatose like Shivo. What? I'm on your last shown like pasta, clinging to the eighth chaim just like Rastas. Kadishasa la asva the chashka nachasa. Keep it kosher, baby, with Haredish style. Taking the tradition and I'm making it now. Changing my position as I'm breaking it down. Exchange a television for a saintly ground. My people want salvation now. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Labiyam on the Malo, why ain't we there? Tommy the niggas over, why ain't we there? David Melech with the Shminish. finished, man, I tell goes hidden living in my grill, all in my video. Understand my words and they still don't hear me though. Bounce to the bass for you bounce to the bass. Come reckless to stetlich, whip shetlich for days. Strictly 613, what I'm selling me. Love the Torah like Dr. Brown, love celery. What's Neshama and Rastafari liberty? All up in your yichus like a dog with a pedigree. Watch as I work this style with a purpose. Halakhic observance, Hasidish and Litvish don't witness the sickest. Whole Edel time is rock on see that this kid's hot. Rizcha the Sifra, it kara yitzra. La'ela ashiklam, Lachaze ashikra. Echta b'piska l'b'kabe achibra. Waiting for Mashiach, I will be shias by me. All my holy people in the system gon' wait up. Ain't you sick of living in division? Yo, change up. Speaking of my scorner and you all up in the ratio. Act like it's tax law, bro, it's a safer. Life is defined by the words on the paper. Up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Levium on the Malo, why ain't we there? Tommy the niggas over, why ain't we there? Double the Melech with the Spanish, man, I tell goes I found Pisha, yes, my man. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my man. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my man. All my people, we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha, yes, my man. All my people gon' wait. So just avoid the hate. Orthodox both a lot. Open up the gates. It's still goalless if you ballin'. So give up the game. He's gonna bring us all the cards to Jerusalem. Build the base, unite the nation, make it all shalom. All the faces in the place are gonna see the gleam. So just praise his name. All the Yidden gonna be there. Zaman inshallah. Malachim and Shemayim all done heard our dawah. Giloy on Ruboy, not this hot saga. The secular is gonna be absurd like Dada. This will be a good time to wake up Abba, the divinely designed extravaganza. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Levium on the Malo, why ain't we there? Tommy the niggas over, why ain't we there? Double the Melech with the Spanish, man, I tell goes mental, see it's essential. Understand the reason he sent you. This is a vessel, this is all introspective. Surprising, rising on a positive vector. Why in your sector? Mahydran inventor. If you sound moronic, it's a sign of defectors. A Heligasa on your style like Hannibal Lecter. Got him bouncing like Kedusha, making your neck hurt. I run up like a worm in your network, stuck up in your memory. Think you can flex words? I admire fire, let me give you a test first. I give you the Perrick, you give me the 10th verse. Don't ask Kashas, go to base and just learn. Stick a blank disc inside your face and press burn. Taking the Kedusha, bringing it westward. Less than a sixth of this will make your head turn. Check the sign of the vital, Lacan the style, yo. Inside of the Bible, Nichtav B'tzad on the side of my bio. I'm leaving MCs comatose like Shibo. What? I'm on your last shown like pasta, clinging to the eighth chaim just like Rastas. Kedishasa la'as for the chashka nachasa. Keep it kosher, baby, with Haredish style. Taking the tradition and I'm making it now. Changing my position as I'm breaking it down. Exchange of television for a saintlier ground. My people want salvation now. Kohanim up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Levium on the Malo, why ain't we there? Tommy the niggas over, why ain't we there? Double the Melech with the Spanish, man, I tell goes hidden living in my grill, all in my video. Understand my words and they still don't hear me though. Bounce to the bass for you bounce to the bass. Come reckless to stetlich, whip shetlich for days. Strictly 613, what I'm selling me. Love the Torah like Dr. Brown, love celery. What's Neshama and Rastafari liberty? All up in your yichus like a dog with a pedigree. Watch as I work this style with a purpose. Halakhic observance, Hasidish and
Hag Sameach, everyone, and welcome to OneShul. My name is Rabbi Patrick, and I have some hair sticking up on the side there. And I'm going to be leading today's online meditation-based Seder. We're going to begin in just a few moments. If you are new to OneShul, we're so excited to have you here for the first time. If you are currently a guest and you haven't logged into the chat room, I highly recommend you do so. It's very easy. All you have to do is click on the little picture of a person there, and it's going to pull up the chat room. If you're not in the chat room at all, you'll see above the videos we have videos, and then it says chat. Click on chat. That'll get you where you need to be. And please create a username. You won't get any email spam or anything like that, but we want to talk to you. We want to get to know you better. So we're going to begin in just a moment. I'm going to get my notes ready. You do not need a Haggadah for this service, but if you have one laying around, it may help. It may make it more fun. This is a meditation-based Passover Seder, so it's very different from what you're probably used to. So let me go on ahead and get set up here, and we will get started. So hello, my name is Rabbi Patrick, and I'm going to be leading the online Seder. It's a meditation-based Seder. You can use any Haggadah that you'd like, however, you don't need one at all. How do you do an online Passover Seder? It's a good question, right? We don't have our foods in front of us. We're not sitting at the same table. We may not even be in the same city or the same country together. So how do you do it? I'd like to start by suggesting that we have some kavanot, that we have some intentions. And here are some intentions that I'd like to put forth that I think will best replicate the Seder experience. First, this is a meditation-based service. So while the Seder, which is typically done at a dinner table and with foods, is very interactive outside of you, it may not be something that is profound inside of you. And that's a huge difference. Because a social Seder is great. I was at one last night. And you're going through the motions, right? You're flipping through the pages, you're taking the wine and putting it on your plate, you're eating a delicious meal. Again, it's all wonderful. But it's not necessarily something that affects you inside. When we think of chametz, when we think of the bread type of foods and the spelt and the barley that we get rid of before Pesach starts, we think of something that is outside of us, something we need to get rid of that is in our environment. But there's also an internal environment. There's an internal home that has to be cleaned. And so my hope with this online Seder is that we can do a little bit of that. We've already done the stuff that's outside of us. So maybe now we have the opportunity to do the things that are inside of us. So that's my first kavanah, my first intention for this Seder. The second part is that we connect with people from all over the world. Not only do we have this online Seder, but it's going to be posted in our archive, so you'll be able to watch it again. People from all over the world will see it in the archive, which is how OneShul operates. We have the online services, but we know that not everyone can make it at the exact time. So this is something that's going to exist forever. My hope is that not only will this video exist forever, but also the spiritual gifts that we've gotten together today in this moment will stay with us forever. When the internal chametz of our soul is cleansed and removed, I hope that it doesn't come back. I hope that it is gone forever. Now, physically, the bread-type foods and things like that, the leavened items, yeah, we're going to eat that when Passover is over. But I hope that the internal chametz is gone forever. So we're going to begin by taking a look at the Seder plate. So this is traditionally what you're going to have on a Seder plate. And what we're going to do in today's Seder is we're going to go through each aspect of the Seder plate. You may not have an actual Seder plate in front of you. You may not have those foods in front of you. That's okay. That's not what's really so important. We're going to go through each one of these spheres, each one of these foods, each one of these representative items. And we're going to hopefully gain some spiritual lessons from it. So I'm going to begin by actually asking kind of a silly question. First of all, if you're logged in the chat room, please say where you're from. But then also, I want you to sort of think about this. You can mention it in the chat room if you'd like. The first time you ever had a meal with chopsticks. Chopsticks. You know, these things. What was that experience like for you? What was it like the first time that you had chopsticks, if you can remember? I'll tell you a few answers that I usually get to that question. The first is, what do chopsticks have to do with Passover? Okay, that's honest. But the answers tend to be, oh, I was confused. I didn't know how to use chopsticks. It was messy. It was difficult. It was new, so I was sort of scared on a certain level. Or I had to get those chopsticks that have the rubber bands at the top. They go like this, and so I didn't have to fumble with my fingers. Or perhaps you were at a table with other people, and they knew how to use chopsticks and you didn't. And so maybe you felt a little silly, maybe you felt strange using chopsticks for the first time. So we've got some answers here. So Ariella says she felt clumsy. Arava said 2 days after you landed in Okinawa, you felt awkward, but you picked it up quickly. Jeremiah says, I took it as a challenge for the next week, would only use chopsticks until I mastered it. Val from the UK says that in China, you felt like you were the only one who couldn't do it. Those are very valuable points. So how is this Passover Seder like using chopsticks? 3 things. For many people, it's new. You've probably never been to an online Passover Seder. You've probably never been to a Passover Seder where there weren't cups of wine, where there wasn't a Seder plate, where there wasn't a meal. For all of us here, it's new. Just like the first time you used chopsticks. We might do it wrong. There are things that we cannot do as a result of the distance that we have between us. So we are going to do things wrong. This is a Passover Seder, and we're going to do it wrong. And not only are we going to do it wrong, we're going to do it wrong with a rabbi. We are going to do it wrong, just like the first time you used chopsticks. And we might be concerned that others on a certain level can see us doing this wrong. This broadcast will exist forever. There's people who are coming into the chat room who are going to be looking at this video who are going to think, how can they do it that way? Pesach without matzah, Pesach without the Seder plate, Pesach without cups of wine, without Haggadot, without an afikomen. They're doing it all wrong, and I can see that there were people at OneShul who did it wrong. So how is this Passover Seder like using chopsticks? It's new for all of us. We might do it wrong, and we might be concerned that because we are here doing it wrong, that people will see us and will judge us for the way that we have done it. But I'd like to offer this idea, that there is no wrong way to do this Seder as long as we are together. This holiday, this Pesach, is of us, it is by us, and it is for us all. It is 1:11 Eastern Time. So, lighting candles is probably not appropriate, but I would like to offer this blessing, the Shehekianu. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, Shehekianu v'kiyamanu v'higianu lazman hazeh. We thank God for the opportunity to be here together. We thank God for the opportunity to be in this place and in this time that we have arrived in this season. This season of spring, of renewal, of change. I think about our ancient ancestors who went through the cold of winter, and they believed that the world was dying, and they weren't always confident that the world was going to spring back. When we look at Mitzrayim, when we look at Egypt, and that word Mitzrayim, the word for Egypt, it comes from a root word which means constraint. And that's what a seed is, right? That's what the earth is prior to spring. It's a womb. It's a tight place of potential that's waiting to burst forth into new life. And that's why when we say Shehekianu at Passover, we are thanking God for helping us to come to a moment where the potential that dwells in winter bursts forth into its truest and newest form in spring and in Pesach, that we break out of the egg, that we break out of the seed, that we break out of the chill of winter into a new season and into a new life. And now a meditation on wine. Seder Renewal, a poem by Ray Shankman. Brothers and sisters, let us order ourselves around this table to negotiate new covenants. Let's rewrite our tragedies. Let's renew history. Let's translate our enslavement into the freedom of this moment. Together we endured suffering. Now let's share a certain future. Past afflictions can be transformed into renewed blessings. Let us break bread and sing praises to life. Let our hallelujahs resonate deeply as a tikkun nefesh. Heal my soul, O Lord, heal others so I can be healed. Let us sing on each cup of wine that zest for life, that brings us home to this table, to the singing of this history, our arms about one another, dancing into freedom. If you have grape juice or wine with you, we would say this blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth the fruit of the vine. About this time, we would be thinking about one of the first items on our plate, karpas. We dip greens in salt water, and the greens symbolize spring, and the salt water reminds us of the tears of those who endured slavery, including our ancestors. The green, the beauty of the green, reminds us of the earth. It reminds us of hope. It reminds us of the budding new of trees, of plants. It reminds us of what it must have been like for our ancestors when they became agricultural and would see the things that they had planted in the ground coming forth, and knowing that for another season they would survive. It's interesting that we mix this green, this survival, this hope into salt water. There's a balancing act there of the freedom of coming out of the constraints of the earth mixed with the saltiness of tears. That sometimes, through difficulty, through despair, we can still nonetheless find a future. We can find a renewal. We can find something to hope for. And that is why we ingest karpas. We ingest these greens mixed with salt water. It's a duality. The duality of suffering and the duality of renewal. So if you have greens at this moment, we would say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri ha'adamah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who brings forth plants from the earth. Now, at every table, you're going to find 3 ritual matzot. The middle matzah is broken, and one half of that becomes the afikomen. It's interesting that we have this word afikomen in here. It's not a Hebrew word. All of what we are doing is actually not just a Seder, but it's actually a symposium. It's a sort of conference, if you will. It's an intellectual pursuit. After the destruction of the temple, our rabbis had to reinvent Judaism to work. And this Seder was a way of having the sacrifice without a temple. And so when we see words like afikomen, which means sort of the last treat or dessert, we can see written in here the influence of other cultures, and it makes sense. Because Judaism doesn't exist in a vacuum. It doesn't exist in its own little world. Judaism exists in whatever world Jews exist in. So we break this middle matzah in acknowledgement of the fact that Judaism is an evolving tradition. It's a tradition that has changed over time. There is no word for religion in the Bible. The closest word we get is da'at. Da'at means knowledge. So you could say da'at Yehudim, the knowledge of the Jews. But again, you have no word for religion. That's because what we think of as religion, what we think of as customs and rituals, those are inseparable from the word that it is used in the Bible. And that word is am. It means people. Sometimes it means tribe. And peoplehood is ultimately what connects us, no matter what language we speak, no matter what influences from the outside world go into our Jewish bubble. We are an am. We are a people. One last thought about matzah. I live in an Orthodox neighborhood in Atlanta, Georgia, called Toco Hills. And in this neighborhood, we have 3 kosher grocery stores, really 4. At a few of these grocery stores, you're going to find the kosher for Passover section. And it is huge. So we have one at Kroger, we have another one at Publix. The other grocery stores are smaller. They don't carry special Pesach sort of necessities like grape juice and matzah and things like that. They carry special items, things like kosher for Passover candies and gourmet type of items. But your staples are going to come from your big box grocery stores. So in these big box grocery stores, they have boxes of matzah. Now this is the Orthodox neighborhood, and there is a belief that Orthodox Jews all do the same things, all believe the same things, all identify the same way. But what I think is interesting is when I look in the grocery stores and I see the kosher for Passover section, and what do I see? Different kinds of matzah up on the high shelf. Manischewitz, Straits, Yehuda, Shmura, all these different types of matzah. Different sizes, some of them are in volume packs of 6 boxes containing approximately 8 squares of matzot, or we have the Shmura ones that are round. All these different kinds of matzahs. Now, why do you suppose you need that? It's the Orthodox neighborhood, right? Orthodox Jews all believe the same things, all act the same ways. Why do you need diversity? It's because even within Orthodoxy, there is diversity. Hasidim will only eat dairy that is cholav Yisrael. Your sort of average Orthodox Jew walking down the street will drink anything that is, or eat anything that is OUD, that is Orthodox Union Dairy, because of a ruling by a rabbi named Moshe Feinstein, who said that all dairy in the United States is kosher as long as they don't put non-kosher items in prepared foods, things like butter and stuff like that. Why? Because he figured, okay, well, you know, the FDA, the Department of Agriculture, they don't allow any additives in the milk, so it must be kosher. And he gave that ruling. Okay, but Hasidim would say no. You have to have cholav Yisrael, right? So that's just milk, right? That's just dairy. But already you have a difference. You have diversity. You have diversity of opinion. And you have diversity of taste, right? Some people love Yehuda matzah. What has 2 thumbs and loves Yehuda matzah? This guy. But some people like shmura. It's round and it's, frankly, burned. But some people like that. Last night, I had the pleasure of spending some time with a woman whose ancestry is Hungarian, and she's convinced, it has to be burned. The matzah has to be burned in order to taste good. Yehuda matzah is just too pale, right? Our friend Jad Jones says, we only have one kosher fresh meat grocery store. The whole store becomes kosher for Pesach, and there are tons of styles of matzah. Jeremiah says, all we have out there is Manischewitz, and it gets old quickly. There is diversity. There is diversity in the Jewish community. There are people who would say that having an online Passover Seder is crazy and unkosher. And there are people who would say having an online Passover Seder is kosher enough, but you should be physically sitting with people. There are other people who would say, why bother having a Passover Seder? When you're an American Jew, you don't need Passover. At the end of the day, we are all matzah. We come in different shapes, we come in different colors, but we're all basically fundamentally the same thing. Matzah is water and flour. It's a staple, it's a base ingredient, it's a base item, it's simple food. And really, when you look at who we are as people, as human beings, we are pretty simple. One of my favorite people, Neil deGrasse Tyson, the director of the Hayden Planetarium, has a quote, and hopefully I'll get it right, but he says that we are connected to each other biologically, to the earth, chemically, and to the universe atomically. We are all made of the same stuff. And it's actually the stuff of stardust. We are made of all of the same things throughout the universe. We are all matzah. We all look different. We all think we're different, but we're all matzah. We are all basic. We are all simple. We now have the 4 questions. What has changed this night from all other nights? That in all other nights we eat both chametz and matzah. On this night we only eat matzah. That in all other nights we eat many vegetables. On this night, maror. That in all other nights we do not dip vegetables even once. On this night we dip twice. That in all other nights some eat sitting and others reclining. On this night we are all reclining. So what makes this night, or this day, or this morning, depending on where you are, different from all others? I think that it is summed up best, really, by the next part of our Seder, which is the 4 children. We generally think of the 4 children as distinct individuals or personalities or types. Each asks or doesn't ask a different type of question and in a different tone. Perhaps, however, the 4 children represent different parts of ourselves at different times and how we approach the Jewish tradition. So the first question that I will ask is, when have you been the wise child? And I'd love to hear some answers or read some answers in the chat room. When have you been the wise child? What Jewish experiences have left the greatest impression on you and made you want to pursue Judaism deeper? When have you been the wise child who's had great Jewish moments and wants to pursue Judaism deeper? I'll tell you about a terrific moment that I had. It was the first time that we had an online service. So this was before OneShul actually existed. This was many years ago. And myself and one other person, we were talking about how we've been building this website called punktorah, and people were kind of liking the blog. And, wouldn't it be great, though, if we had some way to get together with these people that liked the blog? Now, the problem with that, though, is the fact that, you can't get together with someone in Phoenix, and then in New Jersey, and then in Seattle, and in Boca Raton, all at once, right? We couldn't have a conference that everyone could afford to go to. I value the fact that here at OneShul, a lot of people who belong to our community are people who can't afford to belong to other communities. We knew that trying to create some sort of event to get people to come together probably wasn't going to work, so we tried to find some sort of online solution. Now, there was no such thing as Google Hangouts. There was this thing called GoToMeeting, but it kind of didn't work very well. There was Skype, but we could only Skype with one person at a time. So we weren't quite sure what to do. So we did a little poking around, and we actually found this tool that let you broadcast yourself. And it had a little chat room connected to it. So we did a little experiment. We sent out a message on Facebook and Twitter, and we said, hey, go on the punktorah website at 3 o'clock. And we are going to do a mincha service. We're going to do an afternoon service, just to see what would happen. And about 10 people showed up. And we knew there was something there. We weren't sure what it was yet. But we were close. And so we did this several times, and then we thought, aha, this is it. An online synagogue. Unique from all other types of communities. We didn't want to just have online services that were based on us. We didn't want it to be about who the people were who were sitting in the punktorah office at that particular time. Because that changes. That changes over time. Organizations change leadership. The face of organizations changes over time. So we wanted to have something that was by the people who wanted to congregate. And so we came up with a way of showing people how to do services. And now when you go on OneShul, you won't always see me. Actually, it's very rare that you see me. But you will see Katsira, and you'll see Chana, and you'll see Michael. You'll see David. You'll see all kinds of people. Just depends on the day. And I have to say that the moment that we figured that out was when I felt like the wise child. I felt like I had done something really good, and it made me want to dwell deeper in that moment. So let's hear from some wise children. Last Friday, Arava says, a man at the VA eye clinic waiting room asked if anyone was Jewish. He wanted to know about the Pesach Seder and how to pronounce words. I was able to explain the symbolism of the items, as well as to gently correct some misconceptions about how Judaism is different from Christianity. So now we move to our next child. When have you been the wicked child? When have you wanted nothing to do with Jewish community? Nothing to do with Judaism? And what caused that? And how do you feel now? The wicked child is the child who says, I'm not going to Passover. I'm not going to synagogue. I'm not going to daven. I am not going to do Jewish things. I'm not interested in any of that. That's what I think of when I think of the wicked child. I think of the stubborn child. I think of the child who feels like none of this is relevant to them. So my question for you is, when have you been the wicked child? An example from my own life. I was the wicked child before I converted. I didn't understand the Jewish community. I didn't understand why when I went into a synagogue. Everyone wanted to know my last name. I knew it had to be because they knew I was converting, obviously, and they were all trying to out me, right? Surely that's what it was about when people asked what my last name was. They wanted to prove that I wasn't Jewish. How was I the wicked child? I was the wicked child who turned his back on Jewish community because there was no place where I belonged, because Judaism exists for me. I wanted my community where everyone looked like me, thought like me, talked like me. I wanted what I thought diversity was, not what diversity actually is. I wanted hipster, tattooed Judaism. I didn't want real diversity. I wanted other people who I thought were my people so that I could feel a sense of connection to the Jewish community. But I was the wicked child. I was the wicked child who wasn't in it for Judaism, who wasn't in it for Jewish community, but instead was in it for a very narrow sense of what Judaism could be, what Judaism ought to be, which is about everybody, not just me and what I want, what my needs are, which change over time. And naturally, the community should change for me. That was when I was the wicked child. So while we have some people who are probably typing up their wicked child comments in the chat room, I'm going to go on ahead, skip ahead a little bit. When have you been the simple child? When have you been confronted by a Jewish experience that has left you feeling like you don't know enough or aren't a good Jew? What is an experience you've had where you felt, for lack of a better word, dumb? Like you just didn't know enough. And like I mentioned earlier in the chopsticks metaphor, everyone could see right through you. Everyone could tell that you weren't Jewish enough, that you were sort of simple. I'll give you a couple of examples. There's a synagogue that I like to go to. And before I knew how to read Hebrew, I used to have to use the special transliteration book that they give out. So at this conservative synagogue, they have their conservative Seder. And the conservative Seder is Hebrew only with English translation, and then they have some poems and things like that in it, right? But not many people can read Hebrew. Everyone thinks that they want to learn to read Hebrew. The problem, though, is a lot of people don't want to study how to read Hebrew. They want to magically just know how. Because any foreign language is tough, particularly one that's, an ancient dead language. Anyway, at this conservative synagogue, they have two books. They have their regular book, the one that's Hebrew only, and then they also have one that is a transliteration guide. It sort of looks like a magazine. And when you walk into the chapel, they have the books sort of sitting out, and they have greeters whose job it is to hand you a book. And they have the books on one side, and then they have the transliteration guide sort of in another area. And it's this moment where you feel confronted by your own intelligence, because they instinctively, the greeters instinctively give you a Seder that's Hebrew only. Unless, of course, you then turn around and grab a transliteration guide. So you have to, in that moment, decide something. Am I going to sort of own up to the fact that I don't read Hebrew? Am I going to have the courage to say to that person, no, I don't need the regular book, I need the special book? And number three, you have to deal with the fact that they're going to hand you this special book, or just looking at you, they're going to make an assumption about how much Hebrew you know. great example of that happening. I was walking into a synagogue, and there was a group of us who were Eastern European of origin, and then there was an African American gentleman. We were all handed the Seder that's all Hebrew. And for whatever reason, the greeter reached for the transliteration book and gave it to him, assuming naturally that someone who is of African American descent could not possibly read Hebrew. But myself, as a white American, could read Hebrew. So then you get caught in this awkward moment where you feel like the simple child. Moving on now to our last child. When have you been the child who does not know? Are there Jewish customs, rituals, learning, or ideas that are completely foreign to you, which you would like to know more about, but don't know where to start? For myself, I think Kabbalah. Not because I actually want to know that much about Kabbalah, but everyone else wants me to know a lot about Kabbalah. So I want to know more about it. I want to know what people like about it. I want to know why celebrities jumped on it. I want to know why it's meaningful to people. Because I don't know a darn thing about Kabbalah. I know some very, very rudimentary facts, and that's it. But it's completely alien to me. The synagogue world, the Jewish world in the United States, is a rationalistic form of Jewish identity and Judaism, right? So this very mystical way of approaching Judaism is very alien to me. Even when I go into Orthodox and Hasidic circles, still, nonetheless, the backup is rationalism. No one ever really uses mysticism at the exclusion of anything else. So this mystical stuff is something I'd like to know more about, because it is so meaningful to so many people. I'm going to take from Val in the UK a comment a few weeks ago when I was in Israel for the first time. Hooray! Israel for the first time. I felt that all these people know everything about Judaism all their lives, and I will never be able to know enough to be accepted as Jewish. Val, I'll tell you real quick, there was a video that was floating around the internet that was an Israeli reporter in Israel asking people what Shavuot was. It's the next holiday that we have coming up. And there were so many Israelis who had no idea what the holiday was. They just knew they got to eat ice cream and cheesecake. So the reality is, you can never know enough. You will never know enough. You will never be good enough. The only person that gets to decide that is you. That's it. You are the person who gets to decide how much Judaism you know or need to know. The question you have to ask yourself is, when are you going to give yourself permission to be Jewish? And that's it. You have to give yourself permission to be Jewish. Moving on to the next part of our Seder. A meditation. A meditation on freedom. The tale of our people's first quest for freedom from slavery in Egypt was written so long ago that no one knows how much of it is history, the academic study of past events, and how much of it is poetry, the spiritual experience of meaning and place. But like all good stories, the lessons it teaches are valid and important. It is written that long ago, during a time of famine, the ancient Hebrews traveled to Egypt. The Israelites at that time were all in a single family, Jacob and his children. One of Jacob's sons was Joseph, whose God-given ability to interpret dreams caused the Pharaoh, the ruler of Egypt, to make him a leader over all the people of Egypt. But as time passed, another Pharaoh became the ruler of Egypt. He did not remember about Joseph and his wise leadership. And this new Pharaoh turned the Hebrews into slaves and burdened them with heavy work and sorrow. After the Israelites were in Egypt for over 400 years, a man inspired by God's promise of a better life rose among the Hebrews. He demanded that Pharaoh let our people go. Many times he risked his life to insist on the freedom of our people until he finally succeeded. At our Passover Seder, we celebrate the story of our spiritual ancestors' freedom out of slavery 3,000 years ago. We also celebrate the struggle of all people to be free. Throughout the centuries, the story of the Exodus from Egypt has inspired Jews and non-Jews alike in time of persecution and hardship. A full cup of wine symbolizes complete happiness, but the triumph of Passover is diminished by the sacrifice of many human lives when 10 plagues were visited upon the people of Egypt. While we can celebrate the plagues and their role in our liberation, let us remember that it was not the plagues that freed us, but our community's shared spiritual determination. As the human race, we are all connected to one another, even to our enemies. It is fitting that we mourn their loss of life and express our sorrow over their suffering, as we wish they would have for us so long, long ago. Therefore, let us diminish the wine in our spiritual cups, as we recall the 10 plagues that befell Egypt before our liberation. Dam, Svardeya, Kinim, Arov, Dever, Shechin, Barad, Arbe, Choshek, Makat, Bekorot. If you have grape juice with you or a glass of wine, we would say, Baruch, Atah Adonai Eloheinu Haolam, Borei Peri Hagafen. Now there is a part of our Seder called Dayenu, and it is where we basically say, if it had been enough. If God had brought us out of Egypt, Dayenu, it would have been enough, so on and so forth, until we get to the end where we say, if God had built the temple for us, Dayenu, it would have been enough. The song Dayenu is about receiving blessings, so many blessings that they are too great for us to bear. So I ask this question: when have you experienced blessings too great to bear? As the saying goes, when it rains, it pours. I want you to think about, in this time of the Omer, what it means to have blessings that are too great to bear. Sometimes I think that being a rabbi is a blessing that's too great to bear. Last night when I was done with the Passover Seder that 40 people came to, I was exhausted. I was sweaty. I was laying on the couch, and I thought, I can never do this again. It's too much. And then this morning I woke up and thought, okay, here's how I'm going to do it differently next year. And we're going to have 90 people at that Seder. That's a Dayenu. It's a moment when we realize that our blessings are sometimes a little bit too much to bear. But nonetheless, we know that they're blessings, and we keep forward. So think about what these blessings are, what your Dayenu is in this time of the Omer. And think about what you can do with those blessings. How can you make those blessings better? In the Holy Temple, the priests would wash their hands before the daily service. When Judaism was reimagined after the destruction of the temple, the rabbis declared that all people were priests in their homes and in their hearts. We would wash our hands and say, Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu Haolam, Asher Kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al netilat yadayim. And now, Motzi matzah. Matzah. Why do we eat matzah? Because matzah is the symbol of our affliction in Egypt, because it is the symbol of our freedom, the bread we made without time to rise. Matzah is also the symbol of the farmers of the Middle East who celebrated the spring holiday, Hag HaMatzot, the festival of unleavened bread, long before the celebration of Passover came to be. Matzah is therefore a symbol of our unique experience as Jews, but also a universal symbol of shared celebrations. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat matzah. And now the mixing of maror and haroset. This is the mixing of the sweet and the bitter. The sweetness reminds us of freedom, and the bitter reminds us of slavery. See, our lives are complex. At times we feel liberated when restricted, and at other times we feel burdened by life's freedom. Passover teaches us that whether we see life as bitter or as sweet, we are blessed to have these experiences when we are surrounded by those we care about. And we would say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kitshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al achilat maror. We now have a third cup of wine. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. And now we think about Elijah, who also has a cup of wine. And we think about the open door. It is said that the prophet Elijah did not die, but was swept up in a fiery chariot and vanished. The belief grew that one day the prophet would return to earth and announce the coming of Moshiach and the Messianic era. As a symbolic expression of our hope for a world delivered from evil, we open the door for Elijah, welcoming him with a seat and filling a glass for him at our table. Eliyahu Hanavi, Eliyahu Hatishbi, Eliyahu Hagiladi. We now come to our fourth cup, and we would say, Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen. And at this point, we say together, the rites of the Seder are now concluded in accordance with ancient precepts and customs. With the same spirit that we have prepared for it, may we live our lives throughout the year. This is the power of Passover. This is the power of history, and this is the power of freedom. Looking one more time at this Seder plate, which we have gone through and that we have talked about, which has brought us, hopefully brought us, to a greater spiritual place. I'd like to think of the Seder, the order, as an order towards a great potential. And I think it's fitting that at the end of the Seder, we have a few words that we say that I think speak to potential. And that's the potential of Jerusalem, of Yerushalayim. The potential of a type of Israel, of a type of Jerusalem, in a messianic era, in a world where we're not fighting with each other, in a world where we get along with each other, where we have a spiritual reverence for one another that outweighs any material, political, social, or religious gain. Jerusalem is a place, but it's also a hope. And the hope is that by going through an order like this, by going through a meditation, by going through a Seder, that we order ourselves and we order our priorities and we order our souls in such a way that we can have that messianic dream. That we can proudly say, Lashana Haba'ah B'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem. I am honored to share Pesach with you. I am honored that we got to be together. And I'm honored that we're going to have a future together. And here's how we're going to have that future together. We need your help. We need your volunteerism. We need you to come and lead a service. Even if you don't know how, we'll teach you. Lead a class. Find something Jewish that's meaningful to you. Or find an issue that's not necessarily Jewish, but can be looked at from a Jewish perspective. You are smart. You are Jewish. You are good enough, I promise. I know you don't believe me. I know that you think that you're not Jewish enough. I know you think you're not educated enough Jewishly. I know you believe that, but it's not true. That is the chametz. That's the stuff that sticks to us. That's the stuff that we need to cleanse away. And I hope that OneShul can help you to do that. We need your help. We need you to volunteer. If you don't volunteer, events don't happen. It's that simple. If you do not volunteer, events don't happen. And if events don't happen, there is no OneShul. So what does that mean? There's no OneShul without you. There's a little contact form. Send us an email. We'd love to have your help. Also, we need financial support. We did a survey. It's actually still at the top of the website. And one of the questions that got asked was, why do you not come to OneShul? If you choose not to come, why do you not come? And one answer, we had a lot of answers, and usually they were the same. It was things like, well, the time schedule doesn't work out for me, or, it was people saying, I am too busy, or I go to physical services in my community, so I don't need, an online service, or I watch the videos afterwards, so I don't need to attend the live events. But I had one answer that really stuck out. It was a woman who said, I don't have the $5 to give as a suggested donation, and so that's why I don't come. Now, whether that's completely true or not, I don't know. But the reality is, whatever you give helps. There are people that believe that if they can't give $1,000, they shouldn't give $1. Because they think it's insulting. They think if they only give $5, which is the suggested donation, $5 to $10, that's the bare minimum if everyone gave. And not everyone does. If every person gave $10, then we would be fine financially, always. We would be able to do more events. We would be able to have a better website, a better chat room, better live streaming, more ebooks, more resources. We'd be able to give things away. We can't do that because not everyone gives $10. Not everyone gives $5. People are afraid to give small amounts because they think that it's insulting on some level. If they can't give $1,000, they shouldn't give any. Better to not give anything and to hide in the back where no one will see you, right? But here's the thing. $5, $2, that's more than we had before. And that helps a lot. Just going over the room real quick, all of us together. You have the totality of the website, right? So we have the website, it's hosted. We have to pay every month for that. We have to pay every year to own the name oneshul.org. We have our calendar, Google Calendar, that costs us money. We have the streaming window here, the video, that costs us about $100 a month. We have the chat room, which also costs us money. We have the administration of the website, which costs money. You have to pay people to help fix up the website to make it better. That's just the front page of one of our websites. We run 3 websites. We have 3 communities. We need your help. We need anything you can give. And it doesn't matter how small it is. Every little bit helps. Give your time. Give a financial donation. Right now, we're undergoing our Passover campaign. The hope is to raise $6,000. We've raised about $1,000 so far. I need your help. We need your help. Don't let this go away. Don't let this go away because you're afraid that if you give something that it's not going to come back to you. Don't be afraid to give because you think that your donation's not big enough. Don't be afraid to give because it's an investment, and that if you don't invest yourself, then you don't run the risk of losing out on that investment. Don't be afraid to open your heart and to do something good. 250,000 people rely on our community for Jewish life. Make that happen for them. I would appreciate it. So again, thank you very much for coming to this online Seder. I hope that you've enjoyed it as much as I have. And I hope that you continue to have a wonderful, very matzahd Passover. Thank you very much.
Please don't witness the sickest whole Edel HaMizrach won't see that this kid's hot. Rizcha the Sifra, it kara yitzra la'ela as-shikla l'chazei as-shifra Ichta b'piska l'b'kavei achibra waiting for Mashiach Avo Pishias b'mei all my holy people in the system gon' wait up. Ain't you sick of living in division? Yo, change up. Speaking of my scorner and you all up in the ratio. Act like it's tax law, bro, it's a safer. Life is defined by the words on the paper. Go on, name up on the Duchan, why ain't we there? Yisman Meha, all my people we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha Yisman Meha, all my people we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha Yisman Meha, all my people we still gon' wait up. I found Pisha Yisman Meha, all my people gon' wait. So just avoid the hate. Orthodox supposed to like open up the gates. It's still goalless if you ballin', so give up the game. He's gonna bring us all the cards to Jerusalem. Build the base, unite the nation, make it all shalom. All the faces in the place are gonna see the gleam. So just praise his name. All the Yidden gonna be there. Zamen inshallah. Malachim and Shemayim all that heard our dawah. Giloy on Reboy, not this hot saga. The secular is gonna be absurd like Dada. This will be a good time to wake up Abba, the divinely designed extravaganza.